Good evening, and good evening. I trust everyone is having a wonderful day, a fabulous evening, and all is well with you and everyone who is in your circle of life. It is so important to have a positive circle of life because in these last days, and I'm taking a circle of life from the movie Lion King. My wife and I maybe 6, 7 years ago, we saw Lion King on Broadway. It was fabulous and dynamic. And my takeaway from the Lion King, I also saw it several times on television, is to have a circle of life where there are individuals who are positive, who are solution focused, who will encourage me, who will support me, and help me to persevere. So tonight's session, I will be talking about relational toxicity. Relational toxicity. And for all my subscribers, I want to thank you for supporting this video channel and also by sharing this video and many of my videos with others, right? I challenge everyone, if you're watching this or you subscribe to it and or liking it, to listen to it, think about what you saw, what you heard, put it into practice, remix it, and make it your own. And most importantly, live in it. Be a relational change to help you to persevere. Now, once again, this topic is called relational toxicity. And the truth of the matter, we all have triggers which has caused problems in our relational functioning. And there are times when we rationalize, we blame others, we don't take ownership of our issues, and these issues tend to paramount um, or resurface from time to time. Many unresolved relational family of origin experiences have permeated family trees from one generation to the other, right? So there comes a time when we have to be honest with ourselves. We have to be honest with our significant others to really make that change and change the cycle of toxicity in our relationships or triggers so we can have harmonious relational functioning. Do you know when toxicity comes out in relationships? When issues do not go the way of your liking. When this happens, you have a tendency of cutting people off. There's arguments, there's fighting, there's cussing, you're bringing up past issues, and these issues happen from time to time. I will read one of my favorite texts in the Bible. I'm reading from the King James Version. This is Genesis chapter 6, and this is verse 5. Genesis chapter 6, verse 5. Let me stand up. I'm reading from the King James Version, and the Bible says this. And God saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. This text is telling us everyone has a level of toxicity within themselves. The Bible makes it extremely clear there is a cosmic battle between the flesh and the spirit in every person. The flesh is stagnated, is primitive, is selfish, is narcissistic, and the spirit is the part of us that accepts responsibility with moving forward. This is a battle between in us, and we have a choice each and every day to decide whom are we going to live by, whom are we going to make our decisions by, either the flesh or the spirit. Now, Paul talks about this battle in Romans chapter 6, verse 6. And once again, I am reading from the King James Version. I'm sorry, this is Romans chapter 6, verse 16. Let me stand up again. Paul says this. in terms of the battle between the flesh and the spirit, he says this: know ye not that to whom ye yield yourselves servants to obey, his servants are ye, his servants ye are, to whom ye obey, whether of sin unto death or obedience unto righteousness. See, if we obey the flesh and we live by the flesh, which is basically our primitive emotions of anger, frustrations, bitterness, contempt, then we are living unto sin, unto death. If we live in by the Spirit, then we are obedience unto righteousness. The Spirit in us will always lead us to healthy decision making, and it helps us to move from the problem to the solution. So, how do you know when you are in a toxic relationship? There's a lot of fighting, there's a lot of arguments, there's a lot of past issues being played out in the present. There's a lack of trust, empathy, and respect. There's a lack of communications, or the 5 C's. There's disruption in communication. There's disruption in compromise. There's disruption in compassion. There's disruption in commitment, and there's disruption in conversion. Each partner in a relationship is called to bring out the best in the other person, not to be a stagnation or a stumbling block for self and the others, but really being the motivational tool to encourage your spouse to be their best, right? And this means you have to sacrifice self for the betterment of your spouse. And this is difficult to occur if you are unequally unyoked with your spouse, right? We should seek to be involved with someone who is of equal mind, someone who has the same values, the same morals, someone who has a growth mindset, someone who lives and brings about peace. So, in other words, in order for us to move from being toxic, we have to look at our way of being, see how we conduct ourselves, see how we groom ourselves, see how we carry ourselves. We should not have any form of baggage that's preventing us from moving forward. In terms of the car perspective, you remember the car perspective, all of our unresolved issues and our toxicities is in the trunk. And what we have done, we have named it, we have externalized it. At the same time, we have surrounded that issue with positivity, with the mindset that I will share this issues with others, not be ashamed of my experiences, but being proud of my experiences because they helped me move from a boy to a man, or a girl to a woman. And I have surrounded this issue with positivity. So this issue is no longer going to weigh me down. Now it is a pearl in my life, or it's a gem in my life. You recall from earlier videos, we talked about how a pearl is made in a clam. A piece of sand or dirt or parasite enters a clam. The clam employs its defense mechanism that surrounds the external issue that enter it, and it hardens and it becomes a pearl. So when we identify what our triggers are, what part of our lives are toxic, we take ownership, we are hot about it. And the acronym for HIDE is humility, ownership, and transparency. This becomes a jewel or a pearl. We can place it in the trunk of our car. Wherever we go, it goes with us. And we can utilize this as a growth mechanism for ourselves. As we share our experiences with others, we can help them see their toxicity. And when they hear your testimony and how you are not ashamed of where you came from, and you have made this part of your ministry, a part of your health, it will help you to sustain your growth as you encourage others to get out of their foxholes. So I challenge you and I to really take time to examine ourselves, to see what areas of our lives are toxic, right? And sometimes you have to listen to those around you who can see you better than you can see yourselves, and listen to what they have to say, because they're giving you advice about yourselves. Now, in the chat room, I have TG on the line. She says hi to me, and she says I'm speaking facts. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And TG, if you have any questions, feel free to put it into the chat. So, how do you know, once again, if you are in a toxic relationship? What is the first thought or emotion that comes in your mind when you think about your significant other? If anxiety or frustration comes in there, that's a problem. Now here's the question: what is their thoughts and emotions about you when your name is mentioned? And that's something that will probably cause us some stress, because we tend to look at ourselves in a positive light. But when others tell you that I'm glad you are on vacation, when others tell you that their whole demeanor changes when they're in your company, that's important information that should help us to make that change. It is important for us to slow ourselves down and realize we are called to be change agents, or agents of change, difference makers, or repairer of the breach. Something has been broken, and the power in us, when we are honest with ourselves, can help others to change. I'll give you another text. Zechariah 4:6 says this: not by my might or my power, but by his spirit. The spirit in us, which comes from God, can change others when we are living in the solution and not the problem. And we have to realize, without even opening up your mouths, you can elicit change in others when they see you living in a solution and not the problem. Now, I have 10 characteristics of toxicity. 10 characteristics of toxicity. And I'm going to blow your mind with this. Listen to this. Toxicity in a relationship occurs when there, number one, persistent jealousy. There are individuals who are constantly jealous. They're monitoring your every move, right? Sometimes a person is monitoring your every move because he or she is doing something wrong themselves. So when you find yourself in this type of relationship, that's a signal that something is not right. Right? Many people have unresolved family of origin experiences or past relational experiences that are being played out in this present relationship. Some people don't realize that they have a king or queen in front of them. But because of their past unresolved issues or individuals within themselves, they cannot see clearly what's in front of them. I like that song. I can see clearly now, the rain is gone. When we are true with ourselves, our vision becomes clearer. So the first sign of toxicity is persistent jealousy. The second sign of toxicity in a relationship is a lack of support. I can't tell you how many times I have heard in counseling sessions, I do not feel supported by my spouse. Now, here's another question for those who are single. In my counseling session, I often heard or have asked, do you feel supported by yourself? And many times the answer is no, because there's feelings of insecurity or helplessness or hopelessness that occurs in a relationship. In other words, There's three aspects of a person: me, myself, and I, or your past, present, and future. And the unresolved issues of your past will prevent you from having a vision in the present of your purpose so you can see what your destination is. Imagine on a clear day, you're driving your car perspective, but the window in front of you is constantly foggy. You can't even see 3 feet in front of you. That's what happens when there's unresolved issues. You feel yourself going in circles. There's a song in the past. You got me going in circles. I can't sing, but you go round and round and round. It could be your own doing, or it can be what others are doing to you. But let me slow myself down. The acronym for "but" means behold underlying truth. If our if we are true with ourselves and we identify our triggers and the toxicity, we externalize it. Here's the health about it. Our decision making activities will become clearer. Our vision will become clearer. And once your vision is clearer, why would you want to get involved in any type of relationship that brings toxicity in it? Now, there are times when you may have to work with someone who is stuck in the past. And remember, you are called to be the spark to their fire. And sometimes people need a spark. You may have to be called to be a spark to their fire. But most importantly, you have to be a spark to your own fire. So the first sign of toxicity is persistent jealousy. The second sign of toxicity is a lack of support. The third type of of situation that brings toxicity in a relationship, is if you have feelings of walking on eggshells. I have often heard this in counseling. My significant other makes me feel as if I'm walking on eggshells. They are scrutinizing my every move. They are examining me to see what am I doing wrong, and they are not giving me the support to see what I am doing right. And this goes back to the text I just read. In Genesis, the heart is internally wicked. When we are not truthful to ourselves, then we're going to see others based on how we are seeing ourselves. And if you're seeing yourself in a positive light, but seeing others in a negative light, that's a form of toxicity. We should treat others how we desire to be treated. And no one whatsoever should feel like they're walking on eggshells. So, number one, persistent jealousy. Number two, lack of support. Number three, walking on eggshells. And number four, someone who have constant mood swings, right? Sometimes they're happy, sometimes they're sad, sometimes they're happy. Now, here's the catch: a person is toxic. They may present that they are in a good realm or a good relationship with you, but as soon as you do something wrong, that toxicity comes out. I can't tell you time and time again. You like, what happened? It's because they have not dealt with the issues themselves. They're projected on you, right? You are toxic when whenever someone does not meet your liking, you spew venom at them. You give them a whole long list of things that they have never done right. See, they're focused on what you're not doing as opposed to what you have done. They have completely wiped out everything that you have done good for them. They have no memory of them. It's as if their frontal lobes or their consciousness is no longer there, and they're being ruled by their subconscious, which does not have no morality, does not know right from wrong, and they live in their negative emotions. So they can tell you everything that you have not done good for them, because they expect you to acquiesce to what they're doing, not willing to have healthy relationships, but they live in unhealthy relationships based on this cosmic battle that's going inside of them. And as a result, you have constant mood swings. So, number one, in toxicity in relationships, persistent jealousy. Number two, lack of support. Number three, walking on eggshells. Number four, mood swings. And number five, lack of accountability. Many people do not have accountability in themselves, in their relationships, always looking to rationalize, right? And as a result, you find them stuck. They have a fixed mindset, no growth mindset, or if they are accountable, it is not persistent or consistent. It only lasts from a short period of time, then they'll result to being who they were again. The Bible refers to this as a person who returns to eating their own vomit, right? And this I see in many people. And guess what? Before I see it in others, I had to see it within myself. There has to be a sense of accountability in whatever I do. There has to be a sense of being hot, humility, ownership, which is another word for accountability, and transparency. The more you grow, the more you have not a problem with being transparent, right? And you are keenly listening to others. There's truth in everything. There's truth in what people say, right? And we should be willing to see the areas where we can become better with what others are telling us. We live our lives to get better. We should not be the same person who we were yesterday. So number five was lack of accountability. Number six is unsanitary communication. This is what I call it unsanitary communication. And that basically means you spewing venom out your mouth. And if you're not spewing venom out your mouth, you're spewing venom in what you're writing. And remember, what you speak or what you write, once it's out there, you can never take it back. I'll tell you of a story. There was a boy, let's say teenager. He had problems with his mouth. You know, he would just spew venom, cussing out his mouth. And his dad told him, every time you cuss or you say something that's unflavorable, once you get a nail, get a hammer and hammer that nail in the tree. So he did this every time he did something, right? His father had him do it. At the end of 30 days, his father told him, get the hammer and take the nails out of the tree. So he got the hammer, took the nails out of the tree, and his dad asked him, so what do you see in the tree? He said, I see the marks of the nails. And his dad told him the object lesson is once it's out there, you can't take it back. So we sometimes, most of the time, if not all the time, we should be thinking before we speak. Because the whole idea is that we do not want to add fuel to the fire. There is a way where you can convey your thoughts to someone in the spirit of positivity, right? And you let the person know how you feel, but you also take in ownership with your demeanor, your facial expressions, your body language. So you want to make sure that the person truly understand your position, and you're going to convey it in a matter that's not demoralizing. It takes practice. Something like this doesn't happen overnight, but it requires you to take time to really be a master of your emotions and not allow your emotions to be a master of yourself. Now, I have a message by TG. She says here, another character of a toxic relationship is lack of boundaries. If one is clear about the expectations and needs, then he or she can't help themselves but to disrespect you. She is absolutely right. There needs to be healthy boundaries in a relationship, and we should not seek to disrupt the boundaries others have for themselves. We may not always agree with the moral position of others, but we need to respect in order to have respect given to ourselves. We have to show others what we desire by being that type of person to convey that message to others. In other words, treat others how you need to be treated. She also writes, healthy relationships are based on trust and the ability to respect boundaries. She is absolutely right. So once again, number one, the 10 issues we have here of about toxicity in relationships. Number one, persistent jealousy. Number two, lack of support. Number three, walking on eggshells. Number four, mood swings. Number five, lack of accountability. Number six, unsanitary communication. And number seven, constant stress. If you feel that you are constantly under stress or periods of a seesaw, everything is fine. A couple of days later, you're being stressed. It's like going in circles. Make up to break up. Stylistics had that song back in the 70s. You make up to break up. Your relationship is like a jigsaw puzzle. Sometimes you can find the pieces, sometimes you can't. Just don't know if your significant other is going to be in a good mood, right? It's just constant stress, and the stress is usually about the same issue. When this happens, you know that the relationship is toxic, right? And the number eight, I'll move on to number eight. Number eight is ignore needs. It's so important to pay attention to your own needs. Self-care is extremely important, right? Know your needs, know your desires of what you want in your relationship, and be willing to meet your own needs first, because you cannot expect others to do for you what you need to do for yourself. So meet your needs, engage in self care, hobbies, reading, bike riding, roller skating, going for walks, taking care of your person. Do the things that bring health in yourself, that stimulate a right relationship within yourselves. There are some people you have to no longer have contact with. You have to cut off. That's the word I'm looking for. You have to cut off. It could be friends, it could be family members, but you got to remember you have to separate yourself from those who are toxic. And in counseling, this is called improving your level of differentiation, removing yourself from family of origin experiences that are toxic so you can increase your emotional and intellectual functioning. So, number one, persistent jealousy. Number two, lack of support. Number three, walking on eggshells. Number four, mood swings. Number five, lack of accountability. Number six, unsanitary communication. Number seven, constant stress. Number eight, ignoring needs. Number nine, controlling behaviors, right? There's some people in relationships, they seek to control your behaviors. If that happens, that's a form of abuse. Could be emotional abuse, it could be physical abuse, but this is a important sign of a toxic relationship, right? And remember, you have to look at a person holistically in order to have improved decision making activities. But you have to look within yourselves. Is there areas in your physical, psychological, social, or spiritual person that is toxic? If it is, what are you going to do to move yourself out of the toxicity in that relationship so you can be of health, right? You have to be able to do it for yourselves. No one can do it for yourself. You have to be able to do it for yourselves. If you are stagnated in these issues, how do these issues play out in who you choose to be involved with? Sometimes you get involved with someone who's in the same place as you, and not only are you toxic within yourselves, you are toxic for each other. Once again, TG writes, there are He says they can also distract you from other relationships in your life, leading to social isolations. So what she's saying that if you are involved in a relationship and that person is toxic, they can distract you from other meaningful relationships, and they can cause you to be isolated, which is probably their theme. They may feel untoxic when they cause you to be toxic. They're projecting their stress upon you. And if they can control you, is as if they are controlling or conquering their toxicity, because now they're blaming you for everything in their life. And this is a form of toxic or abuse or neglect in relationships. All right. So we talked about the first nine. The last one we're going to talk about is resentment. When there is resentment in a relationship, you know that relationship is toxic, right? And there are so many relationships that we see resentment is there. Part of what we do at our job, working in children's services, is that we do family team meetings and we do child safety conferences, and sometimes we have couples there, but or sometimes we have foster teenagers and foster parents, and you just see that there's a lack of resentment. Sometimes when a parent has a child or teenager in foster care, they may spend a great deal of their time calling cases to the state central registry about every little thing that the foster parent is not doing, as to cause stress, not being thankful or in the spirit of gratitude, knowing that this person is taking care of my child because I did not have the capacity or the willingness of meeting my child needs due to the toxicity in my life. But when you don't take ownership of your issues, you always going to look at others as being toxic and seeing yourselves in a positive light. And the truth of the matter is very difficult to have a healthy, uplifting conversation with someone who is toxic, because there's a lack of accountability. And as soon as you mention accountability to them, they begin defensive, argumentative, cussing, disrespect, right? They're stuck, right? Many foster parents have told the agency, listen, I'm putting in my 10-day notice. I no longer want to take care of this child because the parent keep calling in false reports, parents calling in false allegations, and they causing the foster parent stress. And meanwhile, the children are being removed from home to home to home, right? And the parents do not have the capacity to realize they're causing their child or teenager a lot of stress. Just for edification purposes, the brain is not fully developed to between the ages of 23 and 25. So imagine a child or a teenager who does not have consistency in their lives. And just think about the recurrent trauma that's happening in their lives when they are living or being brought up in the toxicity that their parents are bringing them, right? TG also writes how resentment impacts your relationship may have to do with a lot have to do with who feels resentful. If you harbor bitterness towards your partner, you may express anger unexpectedly and have less empathy for yourselves. True, right? It's so important to see how your triggers are impacting others. Now, these are the 10 signs of toxicity in a relationship. Now, I will spend some time giving us the 10 answers how we can overcome toxicity in relationships. I'm not just going to spend time talking about unhealthy relationships. I will talk to you about how we can move from being problem focused to solution focused, from being toxic to being a person of wealth, of health, a person who can bring peace to others. And I will give you Another text, here's the final text for this evening. Let me stand up so you can see me. Once again, I'm reading from the King James Version, and this is 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 17. And this is what Paul says. Paul says this: Therefore, if any man be in Christ, he is a new creature. All things are passed away. Behold, all things are become new. So, in other words, when you admit you are toxic, when you admit that you are problem focused, when you admit that you are a vacationer, someone who does things at the last minute, or a prisoner, someone who has a fixed mindset, when you admit that you are the problem and that you need to make that change, as Michael Jackson would say, then you are naming it with the emotion, frustration, blaming, and shaming. You name it, externalize it, speak it out of your home, out of your window, car perspective, and you say to yourself, from now on, I, Garrett Ingram, desire to be an agent of change. Not only to speak it into existence, but to live in it. Everything I do will be about change. Let me give you another text quickly. All right. And I'm reading from I think it's help me out, Spirit. 1 Corinthians 10:31. I think it's the right text. 1 Corinthians 10:31. Yes, thank you, Spirit. Let me stand up again. One of my favorite texts, Paul speaking. He says this. Let me put the Bible up so you can see. He says, whether therefore ye eat or drink, or whatsoever ye do, you do all to the glory of God. So, in other words, you always seeking to edify others and put a smile on God's face. If you are not spiritual, you are seeking to put a smile on someone's face, but you're seeking to help someone to be not only the spark, but to be the fire in their own existence. Sometimes there are not others around you to influence you to change. And the whole idea of counseling is to help others to find the resolve, find the resiliency, the protective factors within themselves so they can spark change within their lives. So the first aspect I would talk about with conquering toxicity is acceptance of responsibilities, individually and collectively in the relationship with self and others. Accept responsibility for change. No more blaming or shaming. No more saying this is who I am. I will never change. No more living in past family of origin experiences, but living today for tomorrow. Make that change and realize that I can get better. I will get better. I am a difference maker. I am solution focused. I will be the best I can be. And there is nothing or no one that's going to stop me from being the best I need to be. And I'm going to surround myself with others who are like-minded and others who encourage change. So the first step with conquering toxicity is acceptance of responsibility. The second one is a willingness to invest. In other words, every opportunity you have, make that change. Look at life. Every interaction you have with someone is an opportunity to become better. Every circumstance you find yourself is an opportunity of getting better. There's something unique about each and every person we meet. Seek to find what it is that jewel that makes that person special and listen to what they have to say. Ask them open-ended questions so you can learn from their experiences, remix it, and make it your own. So the first step with conquering toxicity is acceptance of responsibility. The second step with overcoming toxicity is willingness to invest. The third step with overcoming toxicity is shifting blame to understanding. In other words, moving from blaming and shaming to understanding. So your conversation will look like something like this. This is what I understand what you have just said. If I have missed something, please explain it to me because I want to smell, I want to see, I want to feel, I want to taste, and I want to hear what you just have to say. You want to be able to control the atmosphere of the conversation so your partner can can convey their message with you listening too, so you can be on the same page, same book, same chapter, same verse, where you understand what the person is trying to convey with you, where there is no miscommunications, but open, honest communication that seeks to edify both of us. So you're shifting blaming to understanding, and you open the door for respect, empathy, compassion, or the 5 C's: healthy communication, healthy commitment, healthy compromise, healthy compassion, and most importantly, healthy conversion, right? So the first step with overcoming toxicity is accepting of responsibility. The second step with overcoming toxicity is willingness to invest. The third step with overcoming toxicity is shifting blaming to understanding. And the fourth step with overcoming toxicity is the acronym HOT, right? And you have to remember from the past videos: humility, H; O, ownership; T is transparency. And from this point on, every letter that forms a word that comes out my mouth, I am taking responsibility, not only for myself, but also from others. Now, seeds grow at different rates. So only thing you can do is to plant that seeds. It's up to the other person to soften their heart, so they can allow the seeds that's in them to die, these fleshy toxic attributes to die, so the spirit can reign supreme. All you have to do is plant that seed and let the seed germinate at its own time. Remember Zechariah 4:6, not by our power or our will, but by God, or not by our power or our might, but by God's spirit. So it's God's spirit that brings change. We have to believe it, and most importantly, we have to live it. So remember, number one, overcoming toxicity is accepting of responsibility. Number two, willingness to invest. Number three, shifting blaming to understanding. Number four, the acronym HOT, humility, ownership, and transparency. And number 6 and 7 is the acronym LOVE and LIVE. The acronym LOVE is living out victory every day. And the acronym LIVE is living in victory every day. So how you treat others is indicative of how you treat yourself. Look at yourself from this point on. Look at yourself as getting better. From this point on, I am no longer willing to live in toxicity. I demand health and wealth in everything I do so I can convey this message to others. I will live in victory today so I can live out victory in how I interact with others. It is my job today to encourage others to be the best that they can be, and I am willing to live out in solutions what I am conveying within myself so I can encourage others to change. Make that change. Live in victory every day, which is exemplified of living out victory every day. I am no longer willing to live in toxicity. I do not want to involve myself in any toxicity. When I see any conversation that's going left and right, I'm going to gladly say, you know what? This conversation is not healthy at this time. I desire to remove myself from this conversation because I do not want to say anything that's going to bring toxicity in your life. You're taking ownership of yourself. No rationalizations, no blaming, but you always looking to edify others, even when others are not willing to edify yourself. So number 6 and 7 is love and live, right? I'm sorry, number 5 and 6 is love to live. So number 7 is don't dwell in the past. Whatever happens to the past, leave it in the past. You're only going to bring it up if it can be used to edify others. You can't change what happened inside the past, so why is there a need to always bring up past issues? Learn from the past so you can make today a better day. TG gave me an acronym for SEED, all right? And I got to make sure I write this down. S stands for sustainability. E stands for externalization. E stands for expectations. And D stands for deformation. All right. So the whole idea is that we have to digest seeds of growth. But in order for seeds of growth to grow in us, in order for us to live in victory every day, we have to expel any type of toxic seed within us. That means we have to change what comes in the body through the 5 senses. We have to eliminate, put up boundaries of anything that is causing us to become toxic, because toxicity will enter you through your eyes, through your ears, through your nose, through your mouth, through your fingers, all the openings in your sexual organs, any part of your body that have openings, toxicity can subliminally enter in it, and it can lead us to toxicity. When we are having conversations and others spewing venom, right, and they are changing our emotional expression, toxicity just enters us. So it's so important to be an analyst, a behavioral analyst of your person, and to realize whenever any unhealthy communication is being conveyed your way, remove yourself from the situation. Or you can check the person in a calm way. This conversation is not healthy for you and I, or you and I desire not to say anything that's going to bring venom in your life. Taking ownership and responsibility of your life. So number 1, how do you overcome toxicity? Number 1, acceptance of responsibility. Number 2, willingness to invest. Number 3, shifting blame to understanding. Number 4, being hot. Humility, ownership, and transparency. Number 5, love acronym, living out victory every day. Number 6, living in victory every day. Number 7, don't dwell on the past. Dwell on the present to have hope in the future. And number 8, view your partner with compassion. In order to view your partner with compassion, you got to view yourself with compassion, right? We treat others indicative how we treat ourselves. So from this point on, at 9:28 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, look at yourself as an agent of change. Look at yourself with compassion, and I challenge you to interact with your partner with compassion. When you look at the mirror, you say to that person that you see in the mirror, you say, I am a king or I am a queen. I have dominion over life issues, and it is my desire to exemplify dominion over life issues of how I communicate with others in spirit, in truth, with compassion, with humility, with ownership, and most importantly, seeking to edify others, right? TG also writes, in order to live or love, one must eliminate any negative internal or external influences that can affect one's behaviors and actions. Excellent, excellent. Next time we meet, TG, you got to be on here with me. I need a partner. Every successful Every successful person need a hype person to hype them up, all right? And it's so important to partnership. Everything we do is a form of partnership. If you're doing it by yourself, you partner with your past experiences, your present experiences, your hope for the future. You always have a picture of where you came from, where you are today, and where you're going. Remember, all your past toxic issues have been changed into a pearl, so you can freely talk about it in a positive light to elicit others to change. Remember, Zechariah 4:6, not by my might or my power, but by his spirit. My vertical connection with God would help me to exemplify healthy relationships horizontally. The vertical comes first with the horizontal, and together you have just made a cross. We are called to live cross-centered, Christ-centered relationship so we can empower others to change, right? So number 9 is practice healthy communication. So in other words, I'm starting moving forward. I will be talking about many different perspectives in our conversations, right? I will be moving from one to the other, taking some things from one perspective to the other, because the whole idea, we have to master these perspectives. We have to get a PhD. And the acronym for PhD is the ability to proclaim holistic deliverance from any stronghold that's toxic. So no longer is that issue toxic, it has become a pearl. And you can discuss these issues freely because now you have dominion over it. Once you practice healthy dominion communication with yourself, your self-esteem will increase. Your level of differentiation, your emotional and intellectual functioning will be heightened. You feel debonair. You feel like royalty. When you speak with power. You speak with conviction, right? You speak with elegance. There's a certain flair about you. There's a certain swag about you. When you are there, people notice when you are there because they notice that you are someone to be reckoned with. You are someone who demands quality. You demand responsibility. You demand investment. You demand understanding. You demand hot humility, ownership, transparency. You demand love, living out victory every day. You demand living in victory every day. You demand no willingness to dwell on the past experiences. You demand compassion. You demand healthy communication that are solution focused, right? And the last one is accountability. Being accountable for all your actions is something that the young people need. There has to be someone who models healthy communication. And this is one of the reasons why relationships are toxic. There is a lack of accountability in relationships, right? And as a therapist, I challenge myself to be accountable in everything I do. I challenge myself to be responsible and invest in others as I invest myself. No blaming or shaming, but being understanding. I want to see, feel, taste, smell, and hear your experiences. I'm willing to get in the foxhole with you to help you understand there is a ladder that get up out of the foxhole, and I'm willing to partner with you so we can get out of this foxhole. So once again, the 10 steps or the 10 traits in a toxic relationship is persistent jealousy, number 1. Number 2, lack of support. Number 3, walking on eggshells. Number 4, mood swings. Number 5, a lack of accountability. Number 6, unsanitary communications. Number 7, constant stress. Number 8, ignoring needs. Number 9, controlling behaviors. And number 10, resentment. Now, the 10 things that we need to do to remove toxicity within ourselves. Number 1, acceptance of responsibility. Number 2, willingness to invest. Number 3, shifting blame to understanding. Number 4, hot. Humility, ownership, and transparency. Number 5, love, living out victory every day. From this point on, I will no longer live in toxicity. So my interactions with others will be in victory. I will be living in victory every day. Live because I am loving. I am living out victory every day. So that's number 5 and 6. Number 7, don't dwell on the past, dwell on the present, so you can have a prosperity in the future. Number 8, viewing your partner with compassion or viewing yourself with compassion. Number 9, practice healthy communication. And number 10, being accountable. Now, before we go, I just want to let you know you have 10 fingers, right? It's funny, you know what? I always, whatever I do, I always got to put the Bible in it. Basic instructions before leaving Earth. That's what the acronym Bible says. Do you know that God designed the human body to keep the 10 commandments? Each one of the fingers of a body and the hands represents our works. And there's a text in Ecclesiastes says that whatever you do with these things, you do it with all your might. Right? So each one of our fingers represents each of the 10 commandments. We are designed to keep the 10 commandments. If we are keeping the 10 commandments, our relational functioning would not be toxic. Come on now. Somebody say amen. Guess what? We have 10 toes on the feet. In the Bible, your feet represents peace. So that means wherever you go, you exemplifying peace, right? So our bodies, our hands, and our feet are designed for us to live and walk in health. We are called to walk taller and think higher. Live in the 10 commandments so we don't have toxicity in our relational functioning. I hope you enjoy this session. Put some likes in it for me and subscribe to my channel. There's many videos on here that will improve our relational functioning. As a therapist, I have to invest in myself and believe in this. So just my presence can bring change into others. There's a text in the book of Acts where people just wanted to touch Peter's shadow so they can be healed. I have to train myself. I'm in the process of changing myself. When people mention my name, or they pass by me, or they even look at me, or mention my name, they can be cured. They can be cured of their toxicity, not by my might or my strength, but by His power, God's power. I hope you enjoy this. TJ, if you're still listening, we got to do a session together. You know, the brethren want to see you and hear from you. You got some powerful statements in here, right? So I hope you enjoy this. Enjoy your evening, and remember, make that change and live in that change. Enjoy your evening.